October 11th, 2022, 11:47 in the evening. Bucharest, Romania. The streets outside the Tate compound were quiet, the kind of quiet that sits just before something breaks. Inside the high walls of the villa on Voluntari, the lights were still burning. Security cameras swept the perimeter, dogs paced, and somewhere within those walls, a man who had spent years convincing the world he was untouchable sat in the warm glow of his own empire, not knowing that 96 hours from this moment, the gates would come down. His name was Andrew Tate, and the machine he had built, the most sophisticated system of influence, recruitment, money, and control that the internet had ever quietly produced, was about to be dismantled piece by piece by the very world it had been designed to exploit. To understand how he got there, you have to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning he sold to the world, not the rags to riches kickboxing story, not the self-made billionaire myth, not the father who wrestled and the son who learned. You have to go back to the real beginning, the architecture of a man who learned, very early on, that the world was a system. Andrew Tate was born on December 1st, 1986, in Washington, D.C. His father, Emery Tate, was a chess master, not a grandmaster, but a man of formidable intellect and calculated thinking, a man who saw the world as a board. Andrew absorbed that. He absorbed the language of strategy, of positioning. When the family eventually relocated to Luton, England, they entered a world that was harder, greyer, and far less forgiving than the one Emery had promised. He found kickboxing. He trained with a ferocity that coaches noticed immediately. He fought professionally. He lost. He won. He lost again. And somewhere in that cycle of violence and discipline, he won the ISCA World Full Contact Kickboxing Championship. He won it 4 times. Around 2016, Tate appeared on the British version of Big Brother. He was removed within days after footage surfaced of him appearing to hit a woman with a belt. By 2017, Andrew Tate had pivoted. He had moved to Romania. Tate himself would later claim, in a statement that became one of the most analysed pieces of footage in the entire case, that he had moved to Romania partly because he believed it would be easier to avoid accusations there. The prosecutors in Bucharest's Directorate for Investigating Organised Crime and Terrorism, the body known as DIICOT, would take careful note of that statement. But in 2017, the machine was still being built, and the first engine it installed was Webcam Studios. On the surface, it was a business. Young women, recruited through what investigators would later describe as the loverboy method, were brought into the Tate network under the belief that they were entering a romantic relationship or a legitimate business opportunity. They were encouraged to perform on webcam platforms. Andrew and his younger brother Tristan managed the operation with a level of corporate structure. The loverboy method, as Romanian authorities define it, is a specific and calculated form of coercion. 6 women were identified in the initial investigation. Their testimonies, compiled in documents that would eventually form the backbone of the criminal indictment. Andrew Tate, his brother Tristan, and 2 Romanian women who acted as recruiters and managers. All 4 would eventually face charges. And while that corporation was running in the background, Andrew Tate was building something else entirely on top of it. Something visible. Something that would make him, by the summer of 2022, the most Googled man on the planet. Hustlers University, launched in 2021, an online course platform for approximately $49 a month, who promised to teach young men how to make money through dropshipping, copywriting, freelancing, and cryptocurrency. The platform had over 100,000 paying subscribers. 100,000 subscribers at $49 a month. That is approximately $4.9 million in monthly recurring revenue. On the surface, Tate was selling aspiration, fast cars, private jets, the image of a man who had rejected the ordinary world and built something extraordinary outside its rules. He spoke to young men who felt invisible, who felt that the systems of education and employment and social expectation had lied to them, at what he called the Matrix. The researchers at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, who published detailed analyses of Tate's online influence in 2022, described the ecosystem as radicalizing in its effect, even when individual pieces of content stopped short of outright incitement. Meanwhile, the British and Romanian investigators were watching. The investigators knew what they were looking at. The question was whether they could prove it beyond the standard the Romanian courts required. Then came the pizza box. December 27th, 2022. Andrew Tate had spent weeks in a very public and very deliberate social media confrontation with the teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg. He had posted a video of himself surrounded by his fleet of luxury cars, inviting her to respond to his carbon footprint in a way that the internet found immediately and enormously satisfying. Tate had fired back with another video, filmed inside the Bucharest villa, in which a pizza box from a Romanian delivery chain was clearly visible in the background. Romanian authorities, who had been monitoring the situation, used the footage to confirm that Tate was physically present in Romania. Within 48 hours, DICOT had the operational clearance it needed. On December 29, 2022, at approximately 5 in the afternoon, Romanian police and investigators moved on the voluntary compound. The raid was significant not merely for what it found. 6 women on the premises, weapons, cash across multiple currencies, documents relating to corporate structures spanning multiple countries. Andrew and Tristan Tate were taken into custody. The charges: human trafficking, rape, and forming an organized criminal group. The public response was immediate, global, and deeply revealing about the nature of the machine Tate had built. Within hours of the arrest, his supporters, hundreds of thousands of them, across every major platform, began generating content. The architecture of the ideology he had constructed was so elegantly self-sealing that even the criminal charges against him became fuel for it. The former employees of Hustlers University who came forward to describe coercive sales tactics, the women who testified to DICOT, the journalists who spent months documenting the financial structures of the Tate empire. The Hustlers University affiliate model was key to that scale. By financially incentivizing his own subscribers to become content distributors, Tate had created something that the platforms themselves struggled to categorize. In August of 2022, the major platforms moved. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube all removed or significantly restricted Andrew Tate's accounts within days of each other. The bans did not silence Andrew Tate. They proved to his followers that he had been telling the truth all along. The Tate empire was deliberately structured across multiple legal environments. Companies were registered in Romania, in the United Kingdom, in the United Arab Emirates, in the United States. Revenue flowed through cryptocurrency wallets. American federal authorities were briefed. The investigation was, by the time it reached its operational phase, a genuinely multinational effort. The human cost behind the corporate structures, the women who testified, their identities protected by the court, their stories reduced to case numbers and legal terminology, had entered the Tate network at moments of vulnerability. Some were young, some were struggling financially, some had been in previous abusive relationships that had already eroded their capacity to recognize the signs of control. The recruiter, the woman who made first contact, who built the relationship, who created the sense of opportunity and romance and escape. This is a pattern that law enforcement and anti-trafficking organizations recognize. The world moved on. New controversies replaced old ones in the attention economy. Other figures rose and fell. The algorithm found new faces to amplify and new outrages to monetize. But in Bucharest, in the offices of DICOT, the case files continued to grow. And somewhere in Romania, under the conditions of his legal restrictions, Andrew Tate continued to broadcast, continued to build. Teachers across the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, and Romania itself reported that Tate's ideas had entered classrooms. The boys as young as 11 and 12 were repeating his lines about women, about weakness, about the nature of power. It was never really about Andrew Tate. He was the face, the brand, the charismatic center around which the thing organized itself. It ran on loneliness. It ran on the specific loneliness of young men in a world that had changed faster. Andrew Tate did not create that loneliness. He found it, he cataloged it, he packaged it, and sold it back to the people who felt it at $49 a month, with a promise attached. The promise was that you were not ordinary, that you were not lost, that the reason the world had not rewarded you yet was not a failure of character or circumstance, but a conspiracy, and that the man on the screen, the man with the shaved head, and the gold chain and the absolute unblinking certainty in his own righteousness had already seen through it. The argument that Andrew Tate started, about masculinity, about power, about who the system is really designed to protect, continues without him, around him, and despite everything that has been revealed about the man at the center of it.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel.